G'day motorheads and welcome to the video. In this video I thought I'd do something a little different. I thought I'd take a run through of all the bikes that I've ridden in 2022, and so at the end of the video I'll share with you my standout bike or bikes for the 2022 year. So let's get into the video. Okay, so the first bike or bikes I'm going to start with was actually a double header. I was fortunate enough to ride the BMW R18Classic as well as the BMW R18 Bagger. So these bikes are both identical with the same chassis, the same engine, they're just dressed differently. They have the same brake package, they have the same suspension package. Like I said, these bikes are identical, just dressed differently. Both bikes look so huge and very intimidating to ride, but when you get on these bikes, they are so easy to ride. Now I rode them on the freeway and the open road as well as through twisties, and they handled both types of riding with ease. Through the twisties, for a big bike, it tipped in the corners really easily and it absorbed the bumps with ease. My personal opinion, I preferred the look and the feel of the R18 Classic, just with the clear windscreen, the unobstructed look the front. So if you're looking for a big mile munching cruiser from Europe that can handle the twisty roads as well, then definitely go and check out the R18 range from BMW. So the next bike we have on the list is the Yamaha R7 high output. Now I was also fortunate, a month or so later I got to ride the Yamaha R7 learner approved version. Now both of these motorcycles are basically the same. They're the same ergonomics, same frame, same brake package, same suspension. The only difference is with the high output you get the 689cc CP2 engine, which pumps out around 72 horsepower and 67 newton meters of torque. So it's a proven cross-plane crank engine, and they've used this in many different models. Now, the learner approved version has the 655cc CP2 engine. So it's just down on power, so it comes under the learner approved motorcycle scheme laws here in Australia, and I think it's also for sale in New Zealand. So I think Australia and New Zealand are the only countries to my knowledge that get the learner approved version of the Yamaha R7. And both bikes come with a 6-speed gearbox, and they were both so much fun to ride. They handled the road really well. They give you that sporty feel, and they're quite capable at road legal speeds. These bikes were both really good, and the difference that I felt with the learner approved, I didn't actually feel much of a difference power wise for where I rode it, just on the street and the open road. Now I guess if you're going to take them on track, you probably find some sort of difference, but to be honest, I didn't find any difference whatsoever. They're both really good bikes to ride, and it explains why with the learner approved side of it, I've seen so many out on the road with L plates on. And also, in my opinion, if you want to spend out a little bit more money, they come in one of the best color schemes or liveries out on the market today, which is the 60th anniversary World GP livery. But if you're looking at a mid-sized bike, then definitely consider either the high output if you have an unrestricted license, or if you want to get into motorcycling and you want to just step straight into a mid-sized sports bike, then definitely go and check out the Yamaha R7. So the next bike I have here is the Caballero Scrambler 500 Rally. And wow, what a really eye-opening fun motorcycle this was. This bike is made by Fantic Motorcycles in Italy. It's a 449cc single cylinder with 40 horsepower and 43 newton meters of torque. And for 40 horsepower, this thing was absolutely insane. It was so much fun. It has a 6-speed gearbox and is definitely one of the most interesting motorcycles that I've ridden to date. It looks fantastic. It's got such a cool look. Now, the 500 Rally has the longer travel suspension, so this is a bit more off-road focused, so it does sit higher as far as seat height goes, but it is such a fun bike to ride. And the example that I rode had the aftermarket Arrows exhaust, which sounded absolutely fantastic. When you rolled off the throttle on this thing, the pops and burbles and crackles, it was just phenomenal. It sounded fantastic. Such a great little bike. it would make a great commuter bike. It handled highway and freeway speeds without a problem, and I found it such a very eye-opening, enjoyable motorcycle to ride. So that was the Caballero Scrambler 500 Rally. The next bike I have here is the Triumph Street Scrambler. So I was so privileged to be lent this bike from City Coast Motorcycles to partake in the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. And when I picked up this bike, it only had 1 kilometre on the clock. So I was fortunate enough to pick it up a couple of days before, and I took it out for a ride and really got to know the bike, and it was such a great bike to ride. It's Triumph's retro looking road-based scrambler, and it was such a great, easy bike to ride. It's got Triumph's 900cc parallel twin engine with 64 horsepower and 80 Newton meters of torque. This bike was just so effortless and easy to ride, and I don't think you'd get yourself on the wrong side of the law. Now that's not to say that this bike isn't capable, it just rides and it cruises really easily at road speeds. And it's comfortable and it looks absolutely fantastic. Such a great retro look from Triumph, but we wouldn't expect anything else from the British company. Now I really considered pulling the trigger on this bike and adding it to my garage, just for the sheer contrast and balance of the bikes. Having the calmness of the Scrambler against the moodiness of the Red Devil. So if you're looking for something that's a bit more one bike does it all and does it across the board, then definitely consider the Street Scrambler from Triumph. So the next bike we're going to move on to is the Harley Davidson Pan America, Harley's first foray into the adventure bike market. Now this bike has Harley's new 1250cc Revolution Max engine at 150 horsepower and 127 Newton meters of torque. Now this bike is such a rock solid bike. It has been engineered perfectly. It's well balanced, it's quick, it is such an easy bike to ride. Tips in the corners really easily, and I'm sure in the right set of hands off road you'd have no problem. And this bike has an electronics package that is an absolute dream. And if you're after an adventure bike and you're loyal to the Harley Davidson brand, then definitely consider checking out and test riding the Harley Davidson Pan America. You will be pleasantly surprised. This is such a great, well-built motorcycle. And now we'll come to something a little different. The CE04 electric scooter from BMW. So this was my first try at any electric vehicle, albeit 4 wheels or 2 wheels, and I absolutely loved it. For an electric scooter, this thing is absolutely crazy. The wind from the acceleration of this scooter is phenomenal. It just keeps going, hence why it's limited to 120 kilometers per hour. It has such a long wheelbase to incorporate the batteries that sit in between the front and rear wheel. So all your weight is low to the ground, so it's easy to handle. It's so much fun to ride. It has a range of around 130 kilometers on a single charge, and it has a reasonable recharge time that can be done from any 240 volt socket in your home. So this scooter works really well and it looks futuristically fantastic. The CE04 from BMW. Now we'll come to the pocket rocket. The 1990 Honda CBR 250RR. Honda's iconic 90s sports bike. So this bike that I was fortunate enough to ride was a restoration project from DOS Moto Garage right here in Wollongong. And I was fortunate enough to be given the key to take this bike for a ride to get to experience something that I only remember seeing growing up. So the CBR 250RR has 44 horsepower and 25 Newton meters of torque. This thing is completely off its head. You can have so much fun riding like you're at a racetrack, but without breaking the speed limit. It handles really well and it stops really well, and it sounds absolutely phenomenal. Now Paul did a fantastic restoration job on this bike, which has now actually been sold to a customer. So Paul has found another one of these bikes, a 1996 version, that's an Aussie spec version, which he has picked up but he's going to hang on to, and he has offered me to ride this bike, which I'm planning to, if all goes well, to ride it early in 2023. So stay tuned for that video, hopefully coming soon. But the Honda CBR 250RR was such an iconic bike to ride, and I had so much fun on it. So next up we have the Harley Davidson Lowrider S. Harley described it as a blacked out factory custom performance cruiser, and it was my first ride on a more of a traditional Harley Davidson motorcycle. So the Lowrider S comes with 105 horsepower and 168 Newton meters of torque. Now this bike just pulls from low down in the rev range, and sitting laid back with the ape handlebars and the feet forward just really gave it that West Coast style. It was a great bike to ride, easy to handle in any situation. Again, I rode this bike on the open road and the freeway as well as through the city, and I can tell you that because it's quite narrow, I even lane filtered on this bike without a problem. So this example came with the aftermarket Reinhardt exhaust, which sounded absolutely fantastic. And so as a first real Harley Davidson bike that I got to ride, I really enjoyed the Harley Davidson Lowrider S. And lastly on this list, we have the Ducatil Desert X, Ducati's all-new off-road focused motorcycle. This motorcycle has the 90-degree V-twin engine from Ducati with 110 horsepower and 92 Newton meters of torque. I think it looks fantastic. This bike looks like it's been lifted straight out of the Dakar Rally. Now because this is more off-road focused, it has the 21-inch front wheel and long travel suspension purposely built for off-road riding. It's a well-balanced bike that's easy to handle with smooth acceleration and smooth gear changes. This bike was an absolute joy to ride. I really enjoyed the Desert X from Ducati. Now my standout bike for the 2022 calendar year, in my opinion, was the Harley Davidson Pan America. Just for the sheer engineering and refinement of this motorcycle, closely followed by the Ducati Desert X. The most interesting or fun bike I've had the opportunity to ride this year was definitely the Caballero Scrambler 500 Rally. It was just so much fun to ride. Such a great motorcycle. So motorheads, that was just a wrap of all the bikes I've ridden in 2022. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. As always, I'd be so interested to hear what you think on any of the bikes I talked about in today's video. So please feel free to leave a comment, tell me your thoughts. As always, I'll leave all relevant information and links in the description box down below. Thank you so much to all the dealerships that allowed me to take their motorcycles out and film these videos. Thank you to City Coast Motorcycles, Fraser Motorcycles, Black Metal Moto Co, DOS Moto Garage, and as well as Quick Shift Motorcycles. Thank you so very much. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to bringing you more in 2023. So take care, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one. That's a wrap.